Okay, so since there hasn't been a lot of Colts content to talk about recently, and I haven't really uploaded anything about the Colts recently, the first of my new projects is going to be jumping the gun a little on the NFL offseason, and that is talking about the Colts options at quarterback. I've got, let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six different options that I think the Colts could do. So let's jump into it. The first option, in-house, a guy that we've developed in Sam Ellinger. Sam Ellinger is kind of like this year's Jacob Eason, where like after last year, after Philip, we were talking about like, do we start Jacob Eason? Do we keep him? He had a lot of compliments from Philip Rivers. He was looking like he could be okay, and he did get to play a little bit. He got to play against the Rams, the final snap of the game against the Rams at the beginning of the year, in replacement of Carson Wentz after he sprained both of his ankles. He threw a pick to Jalen Ramsey and basically sealed us the loss. A lot of people were like, well, you can't blame him. It was in the middle of the game. He was just not it really that year. I don't think he was really showing up in practice, so he got cut. But Sam Ellinger, I have a bit of a different feeling about. Sam, I mean, you look at his college stats, he put up amazing numbers for Texas. I think, in my opinion, if we aren't going to draft a new quarterback or trade for Aaron Rodgers or someone of that caliber, you give Sam Ellinger the reins. You let him show what he can do. He sat behind Wentz for a year. If you're not going to keep Wentz, you're not going to try and get Aaron Rodgers, go with Sam Ellinger. Let's see what he can do, because he could turn out to be very, very good. And now that he's gotten to sit for a year and kind of take in the NFL while holding a clipboard and get used to the NFL and stuff like that, he took a few snaps this year. I feel like he's kind of prepped. I mean, it is very rare that a quarterback comes into the league, sits behind an experienced veteran for a year, and then gets to start the next year and then sucks. So, on to another option. This option is the best case scenario for the Colts. He's a bit older. He's probably only got like 3 or 4 years at most in him. But he's still only a year removed from an MVP, and he's still in the MVP conversation. That being Aaron Rodgers. Now, I know this year he was in a bit of drama, but that was mainly because he was upset with the Packers front office and stuff like that. I feel like Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback that we can get out of all these options that, have been the most popular options. He is the best one we can get because he's Aaron frickin' Rodgers. Now, I know all the talk about he chokes in divisional games and he chokes in championship games and stuff like that. The Colts haven't been to a divisional round since 2018. If he can get us to an AFC championship, that is a great stepping stone compared to going in a wild card game and losing. Or missing the playoffs entirely. I will take going to an AFC championship game and then hopefully the next year going to the Super Bowl and just like improving every year. I will take a gradual, 2 or 3 year improvement over missing the playoffs with a really risky option. But yeah, this is my favorite option. I would love to see Aaron Rodgers wearing the horseshoe on his helmet and wearing blue and white on his jersey and throwing beautiful spiraling passes to Michael Pittman Jr. This is my favorite option. I think this is the best option. I feel like most people agree with me. On to the next option. The next option is titled Wentz 2.0 because it's very similar caliber to Carson Wentz, only not really as good. That being Derek Carr. Now, I know we got beat by Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a good quarterback. I mean, I remember in like 2017 when he was balling out, but like he's on the same level as Wentz. It's just Carson Wentz with a different name and a different face and a different jersey number. And he's basically Carson Wentz without being named Carson Wentz. And most Colts fans just blindly hate on Wentz because they need to blame someone, and it's easy to blame Wentz because it's easy on their brain. It doesn't require a lot of critical thinking. But if you get Derek Carr, you're just changing for the sake of change. And from what we have seen in the past, in sports, changing for the sake of change is almost 100% of the time the worst thing that you can do. You never just change because you want to change. You change for an improvement. That is the only way you get better, is if you change for an improved version of a player or a coach or an executive. Derek Carr would not be a very improved version of Carson Wentz. Not one of my more favorite options. I mean, if we did it, I wouldn't be super upset. But it's just, at that point, you just keep Wentz instead of getting Derek Carr just because. Like, it's kind of stupid. On to the next option. This one I titled Risky because Russell Wilson has a history of being a bit injury prone and falling off after the first few weeks of the season, which is something that Colts fans can't stand. They can't stand injury prone players, and they can't stand inconsistent quarterbacking. Now, I'm not going to say that it would be like Wentz to have Russell Wilson. If we got Russell Wilson, I'd be happy. But it is very, very risky because you could end up halfway through the year needing Sam Ellinger to go in and starting for the rest of the year. It's a very large possibility that that happens. But Russell Wilson also with the Colts, again, he would have better weapons on offense and a better offensive line, so he wouldn't be taking as many hits, so maybe he doesn't have to worry about injuries. And he wouldn't be throwing as much, so his arm wouldn't have as much wear and tear because we have Jonathan Taylor at running back. On to the next option. This option is like popular but unpopular, kind of. It's weird. Keeping Carson Wentz. Personally, I wouldn't be upset with keeping Wentz. I know most of the Colts fans would. I wouldn't, because I'm not a fan of change for the sake of change. And keeping Wentz would be a positive for a few reasons. One, you would finally have the same quarterback for 2 years in a row for the first time since, I don't even remember when. These past few years, guys like Darius Leonard and Quentin Nelson and these young guys that are really good, they have had a new quarterback every year. I think if you keep Wentz, he's going to improve. He'll get better. It won't be a popular option, but it is an option that wouldn't be the worst in the world. I think the team would get better as long as we get a good receiver, a better left tackle in the draft. Fill the holes that were there this year, and I think Wentz definitely takes a big step and improves. So it may not be popular at the time, but after week 1, if he performs well, it'll be a popular option because we'll be playing well. Camera is shaking, and I don't know why. On to the next option. Now this one I titled The Riskiest because it is very, very risky, seems pretty unnecessary, and it is my least favorite option, but it is still an option, and that is drafting a quarterback to start. This I don't necessarily like because, one, we don't have a top pick. And if you're drafting a guy in the second or third round to come in and start week 1, when you already have Sam Ellinger, who is more experienced and probably better, it just seems unnecessary. Now, this one's probably the most unlikely because it's the most unnecessary, but it's still a possibility, and I never put anything past this Colts front office. But unless the prospect is just so good that you can't deny it, and you need to pick him up, you don't do this because it is by far the riskiest and by far, like, really stupid. Unless, of course, like, Green Bay wanted us to draft someone in the second round, but I find that unlikely because they have Jordan Love, and they want to see what he can do, and he's supposed to be Rodgers' replacement. So I feel like that's very unlikely. So I don't like this option. I don't think a lot of people like this option, but again, still an option. And I don't want it to happen. It's very stupid. So, yeah. Those are all of the quarterback options for now, at least the most popular ones. So yeah, comment down below, like, what's your favorite option? Do you think that we should get Aaron Rodgers? Do you think we should keep Wentz? Do you think we should start Sam Ellinger? Like, what do you guys think? I want to hear from you guys, giving me your guys' view of it, because it gives more perspective. It makes it easier to evaluate when you have other people's perspectives and ideas. It makes it easier to evaluate. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time. As always, I'm not funny, and the Colts next year are either going to be a glorious train wreck or one of the best teams in the NFL. We'll see which. See you guys next time.
Just got unlucky on a few plays tonight. You know, one of those plays, I thought he was standing still, but he just hit the shit out of that one guy, and the guy went flying. They blew the whistle, and they called it on him.